Picture this. You load up your AI with all this meticulously gathered research. You've got dozens of PDFs, transcripts, extensive notes. You ask a genuinely brilliant, nuanced question, and what do you get back? A muddy, super generic, heavily hedged answer that literally feels like it was written by a high schooler who just skimmed a Wikipedia page. It is incredibly frustrating, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to discover exactly why throwing massive amounts of information at an AI model almost always backfires. And more importantly, we'll look at how to fix it by transforming your raw data into a tightly structured reasoning environment. So you've uploaded all your sources, you've spent time engineering the perfect prompt, but the output is still just completely underwhelming. I'm here to tell you that this is rarely a failure of the AI model itself. It's almost always a failure of the environment you've placed the AI into. Think about it like this. If you put a brilliant human researcher in a chaotic room where 50 documents from totally different projects are just scattered all over the floor, and then you ask them a highly specific question, they're going to struggle too. The AI is doing exactly what it was built to do. It's trying to average out everything it sees. And there's actually a very specific number where this problem goes from being a minor annoyance to a total breakdown. That number is 15. 15 sources is the critical inflection point. Below 15, you can probably manage, but once you cross that mark, manual scrolling just completely fails. Your organizational labels become absolutely essential. Without them, your workspace practically becomes write-only. You just keep dumping stuff in, but you can't get anything genuinely useful out. So to solve this, we're going to logically walk through 5 key concepts today. First, the 15-source ceiling. Second, enter semantic source organization. Third, 3 label-anchored workflows. Fourth, diagnosing knowledge friction. And finally, the knowledge architecture layers. Let's start right off the bat with part 1, the 15-source ceiling. The diagnosis for hitting that wall at 15 sources is something called knowledge friction. This is the gap between the massive, raw pile of PDFs you uploaded and the highly specific context that your current question actually needs. When the AI has to dig through a broad literature review, a random budget spreadsheet, and a user interview transcript just to answer a methodology question, you get context collision. The AI simply gets distracted by all that irrelevant context. And the result? Its reasoning degrades and you get weak output. To act as a lubricant against that exact friction, we move to part 2. Enter semantic source organization. Now, this is a massive paradigm shift. Semantic clustering means organizing your sources by their reasoning context, rather than just grouping them by format, like all my PDFs or by date. And this isn't just cosmetic housekeeping where you're manually dragging and dropping files into folders. Once you cross that handful of sources, the system's engine actively scans the full text of everything you've uploaded, not just the titles. It then applies semantic clusters to act as a highly effective context filter. It groups things naturally based on what the documents actually mean. Think about the difference this makes. Imagine a flat list of files. That's high friction. Every single time you ask a question, the AI crashes into all 50 sources at once. Constant context collision. But shift to a semantic cluster view, and you instantly get low friction. You've narrowed the AI's focus to a very specific subset of information. You're essentially putting blinders on the model so it isn't distracted by the rest of the noise, allowing it to actually think clearly about the exact cluster you've selected. Which brings us to part 3, 3 label-anchored workflows. Let's look at how we practically apply this. The first workflow is the label-anchored studio output. Let's say you want to generate a 15-minute audio overview discussing your research. If you generate it from the entire unfiltered notebook, it's going to be a mess. But with this workflow, you select just one label, say your methodology cluster, you confirm only those specific sources are active, and then you generate. The AI grounds its output exclusively in that tight subset. There's zero cross-contamination from your findings or limitations clusters, resulting in highly focused, rigorous output. The second workflow is absolutely my favorite. It's called cross-label tension analysis. Look, AI naturally wants to please you by summarizing things and finding agreement. But the real gold in research, that's found in the friction. Here, you select 2 labels that should theoretically agree, like a cluster of user research transcripts and a cluster of engineering constraints. You select both, and in your prompt, you explicitly ask the AI to identify contradictions. You tell it, do not summarize agreement, I want the friction. That gap it finds is exactly where your most valuable insights live. Workflow number 3 is gap analysis. If you ask an AI what's missing from a massive 50-source notebook, it's going to give you vague nonsense because it's overwhelmed with context. But if you select just one label, let's say theoretical background, that boundary makes the question entirely answerable. You ask the AI, based strictly on this label, what subtopics or perspectives are conspicuously absent. It will instantly hand you a precise list of missing pieces, which you can then turn into your next search queries. It is literally like having a brilliant research assistant auditing your work. Now, of course, no system is completely foolproof. So in part 4, diagnosing knowledge friction, we need to look at how to fix things when they go wrong. The crucial thing to remember here is that just 5 minutes of source cleanup will pay you back tenfold in cluster precision. If your labels are too broad, like one label holding 15 sources that cover 3 entirely different themes, you need to split it. If labels overlap heavily, just merge them. And the most common culprit for bad output? Low-quality sources. Messy PDFs or screenshots with terrible text recognition will pollute the clustering engine because the input text is just too vague. Ditch the bad files and watch your labels instantly sharpen. But here is a major pitfall I see folks fall into all the time: splitting your workspace for the wrong reasons. Please do not split up a project just because you want cleaner labels. Labels are specifically designed to handle complexity within a single project. If you fragment your work, you completely lose the magic ability to do that cross-label tension analysis we just talked about. You should only ever split things up if you hit a hard source limit, or if you're dealing with completely unrelated domains, like trying to keep machine learning papers and 18th century poetry in the exact same workspace. Let's zoom out for part 5, the knowledge architecture layers. We want to transition you from being just a casual user of an app into a true knowledge architect. AI knowledge work happens across 4 distinct layers. Layer 1 is knowledge acquisition, which is just collecting and uploading documents. Sadly, this is where most people stop. They upload, ask a question, get a terrible answer, and then blame the AI. But the real power unlocks when you move up. Layer 2 is organization, doing the clustering. Layer 3 is designing the reasoning environment itself by setting constraints. And finally, Layer 4 is production, where you generate grounded, incredibly useful outputs. The biggest takeaway for your workflow today is that actively moving from Layer 1 to Layer 2 is the single largest quality jump you can possibly make. Organizing your sources by reasoning context, using these semantic labels as boundaries, is the most effective way to eliminate those generic, hedged AI answers. You are finally giving the AI the structural signal it desperately needs to give you high-fidelity insights back. So, returning to where we started, remember this: the AI reasons exactly as well as its knowledge environment allows. When you just dump files into a folder, you're creating high friction. But when you curate, cluster, and anchor your queries to specific semantic boundaries, you create flow. You are no longer just randomly asking questions, you are the ultimate architect of the AI's success. So take a look at your own massive pile of research right now. What is the very first semantic boundary you need to build?